Let's get to modern day. Peace talks ongoing to end the war in Gaza. It's October 7. Obviously, Israel is really amplifying the Remember October 7 propaganda. October 7, 2023 should be a reminder that we are turning the page and getting into the third year of Israel's Holocaust of the Palestinian population in Gaza. We are now in the third year. It's been 2 whole years, which sounds so fucking crazy. When you think about it, you're like 2 entire years. 2 entire years. October 7, 2024 was the first year of Israel's genocide of the Palestinians. And October 7, 2025, today, is the end of the second year.
This morning marks 2 years since the horror of October 7th, when thousands of Hamas militants stormed into Israel, massacring nearly 1,200 people, taking 251 hostage. Udi Goren's cousin, Tal Haimi, died defending his kibbutz. His body is one of those being held in Gaza.
This barbarism, this hatred that just flowed in uncontrollably. It really was just the worst of humanity.
Like so many families, he hopes the talks between Israel and Hamas will end the war and bring their loved ones home. Phase 1 of the US brokered plan would see the immediate release of all 48 remaining hostages, 20 believed to be alive. Palestinian prisoners would be released and Israeli troops partially withdraw. But a key sticking point,
I think one of the craziest aspects of like the relitigation of October 7 over and over again in an effort to justify Israel's bloody murder campaign, Israel's Holocaust of the Palestinians, is that it is somehow the most televised and the most like filmed act of terror, but it's also the most lied about, okay? Because there are things that you can point to that are active like war crimes, right? Regardless of the fact that, and you're supposed to match it up with 75 years of apartheid, of course, at the end of the day. But even then, right, there are things that you can present that took place that are war crimes. But that wasn't enough. Israel had to literally just straight up fucking lie about virtually every aspect of October 7. And not only that, but also, still to this fucking day, there have been admissions of the Hannibal Directive being utilized on October 7 on the Israeli civilian population, both with the people that were escaping the Nova Festival and also certainly in the kibbutzim. We still do not have any conclusive evidence. No investigations have been taking place on the Israeli side that directly points to how many the IDF actually ended up killing of their own civilians and their own military members as well. Shocking. It's been 2 fucking years and we still do not know. We do know that the Hannibal Directive was applied. And for those of you who don't know, Hannibal Directive not used, lie. 40 beheaded babies, lie. Bombing of a hospital, lie. I mean, yeah. But it is remarkable, to me at least, it is remarkable to me that there are still so many questions left unaddressed, left unanswered. People still turn around and say, 1,200 Israelis were killed, making it seem as though every single person was a civilian. That's not the truth, obviously. The Hannibal Directive, for those of you who still are oblivious to it, is an Israeli military doctrine that dictates that it is better for Israel, the armed forces, to kill an Israeli that has been captured by the resistance forces than it is to leave them alive and allow them to be a bargaining chip for leverage in the hands of the resistance forces. It sounds insane, but it is straight up a part of Israeli military protocol. And not only is it a straight up part of Israeli military protocol, it was absolutely utilized on October 7. We know this because the defense secretary at the time, Yoav Gallant, international war criminal Yoav Gallant, openly admitted to the utilization of the Hannibal Doctrine on October 7. The attacks on the kibbutz and the music festival were awful. It was all recorded. It's just a horrible situation. Israel still chose to lie and make it sound like something from a movie. They just had to make genocide propaganda instead of reporting the truth and engaging in real hostage negotiations. Yeah, there was a deliberate reason for it. It's because, one, this was a real scar for a supremacist ideology, for a nation that is designed around a supremacist ideology. This was a major blow to their confidence. Okay, so that was one of the aspects. So like there is a sense of there was a genuine interest in it was genuine. Like the people did go genuinely insane. Okay, that is true. But also, because like, how dare these barbaric hordes actually rise up against us and strike this devastating of a blow against our superior peoples, right? Like they're supposed to be kept docile. They're supposed to be kept servile. It's like the Nat Turner Rebellion. So that certainly bricked the collective consciousness of Israeli society. But also on top of that, the reason for why they really beefed up the atrocity propaganda on October 7, in spite of the fact that there was very real atrocities that they could have just pointed at, right, was because they wanted to heighten international support. And they did. They successfully did get a lot of international support because Western leaders were totally willing to lean into ridiculous narratives that were very quickly and immediately discounted. Like people fact checked it early on and found that like a lot of the major narratives that they were driving were just completely made up. The babies being beheaded, babies being thrown in ovens, like mass rapes directed by Hamas, like all of this stuff was completely fucking made up. Whole cloth. Okay? And yet that didn't stop Western leadership, including Joseph Robinette Biden, from advancing these narratives and then quietly apologizing, having his staffers quietly apologize for even revealing this misinformation. You had esteemed, trusted, signature legacy publishers like the New York Times also playing a formative role in advancing this narrative of barbarism beyond the actual atrocities that took place. And obviously on the most extreme end, you had people like Rabbi Shmuley saying that Hamas was cutting off the breasts of Israeli women and playing soccer with the cut off breasts of Israeli women. Like just totally psychotic shit. Yeah, the lie about babies in ovens is a lot more sinister than just propaganda. Israeli forces have in fact killed babies in ovens, but when you Google that, guess what happens? Guess what appears first? Weren't Israeli forces that did that. Those were Zionist forces before the inception of the nation state of Israel. What you are talking about is Deir Yassin, okay? In Deir Yassin in 1947, a year prior to the completion of the Nakba, the early Zionist brigades with, I think it was Lihi and Irgun, the paramilitaries, actually did throw a baker's child in an oven and made the baker watch and then threw the baker in the oven after him. All of those Zionist brigades then, of course, became the IDF. You had Haganah, you had Irgun, you had Lihi, and numerous other brigades. They all basically formed the Israeli occupying forces, the Israeli Defense Force, as is known. Another form of atrocity propaganda that they also utilized on October 7 when they were lying was the pregnant Israeli women having their the babies getting ripped out of their bodies, right? That actually didn't happen on October 7, but it is a atrocity that took place in the hands of Phalangist militias in the Sabra and Shatila massacre, which was also directed by Israel against both Palestinian refugees that were in Sabra and Shatila, and also the Shia Lebanese population that was in the area as well. Anyway, just something to remember. So a lot of the atrocity propaganda that these guys beefed up in the aftermath of October 7 and they ran around with were things that either Zionist brigades or the Israeli occupying forces had directly done or had overseen being done to the Palestinian population.
It could come in phase 2, which demands Hamas disarm and relinquish control of Gaza. But President Trump optimistic about the chances of success.
We're going to have a Gaza deal, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Growing numbers of Israelis now demanding an end to the war and the return of the hostages, among them the bodies of 2 Americans, Omar Nutra and Itai Chen. The deal could also bring an end to the suffering in Gaza. More than 67,000 Palestinians killed in this war, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Human rights groups saying many are now suffering from famine, something Israel denies. Our team witnessing the suffering up close. 2-year-old Farazia Kabat dying of starvation Monday, according to local doctors. His father, Mustafa, told by doctors that his son hadn't survived after being admitted to the ICU just 5 days earlier. Millions of Palestinians and Israelis now desperate for a deal to finally end.
It's hard to find the right words. It's beyond what anyone would ever want to imagine, much less, God forbid, experience. A baby, an infant, riddled with bullets, soldiers beheaded, young people burned alive. I could go on, but it's simply depravity in the worst imaginable way. Anthony Blinken, 12th of October, 2023. So what I'm learning is that the atrocity propaganda not only has a dual purpose, but the primary purpose is the overriding of their own atrocity by selecting the same crimes on October 7 because the consent had already existed amongst the G7/core already. Yes, but I do think that the primary purpose was to still, first and foremost, really heighten the atrocity narratives in an effort to justify what came after. Because Israel knew exactly what was going on. Israel knew exactly what was going to happen, what they were going to do, the Israeli government, I mean, and obviously people who had been engaging in pro-Palestinian advocacy also knew exactly what was about to take place and what came before October 7, right? There's a reason why people like myself, from the start, were very careful with communicating exactly who was responsible for October 7. There were definitely some who went above and beyond when they were talking about the events that were taking place because they thought that they could get away with even a fraction of the callous ways in which the pro-Israel crowd speaks on these issues, right? You can't do that. It sucks. But you can't do that. And we're not even talking about like whether you should do that or not. I'm not relitigating that, okay? But it is obvious that there is not only an asymmetry with the ways in which Israel gets to do whatever the fuck it wants versus the retaliation or the resistance against such atrocities, but that asymmetry also certainly exists in the messaging realm, okay? That asymmetry certainly exists in the ways in which people defend Israel's atrocities and defend Israel's genocide. They can be as ridiculous as they want. They can be as bloodthirsty as they want. Look at Randy Fine. Okay? Randy Fine can just straight up say, like, Muslim congresspersons need to be shipped to Gaza so they can be fucking assassinated by the Israeli state, or, basically masturbate openly to fucking images of Gaza being completely destroyed. But of course, if there was a congressperson of like Palestinian background or a Muslim congressperson, could you imagine them fucking doing the same for October 7? And these two things are not even equivalent regardless, but there is no symmetry in the ways in which you can be openly callous and openly monstrous without penalty. You would get fucking destroyed. You would not only lose your job, you'd probably go to prison if you were to speak about Jews in the way that like Randy Fine speaks about Muslims, or if you spoke about Israel in the way that defenders of Israel speak openly about the victims on the Palestinian side. As a Palestinian, we inherently know that there is a massive asymmetry across board in every aspect you can think of, whether it comes to the actions on the ground or whether it comes to the words spoken about the situation. Pro-Israel people can literally call for our deaths to our faces in front of law enforcement and have zero recourse. Exactly.
We're in very serious negotiations to, I guess you could say, depending on the way you count, 3,000 years. You could say 500 years. You could say, but that it's been raging for a long time. And I think there's a possibility that we could have peace in the Middle East. It's something even beyond the Gaza situation. We want a release of the hostages immediately. etc. And so our team is over there now. Another team just left, and other countries, literally every country in the world has supported the plan.
Yep.
I don't think there's anybody that hasn't, actually, not that I've seen. But there's a real chance that we could do something, so you may have some questions on that later. We are very close to making a deal.
The 3,000 years thing is new. Someone got into Trump's ear and made him start singing about this 3,000 years narrative. I suspect that this narrative will be more annoying for his base, because it's like a very common meta to dunk on the ways in which Israel will or Israelis or people who defend Israel actively say, "Well, this is promised land 3,000 years ago." It's like a way to bring religion into the conversation, and a lot of people don't appreciate that. A lot of people obviously make jokes about that because it's fucking ridiculous. So Trump, not realizing that he just keeps saying 3,000 years, it was promised to Israel 3,000 years ago, the land was promised to the Jews 3,000 years ago, is only going to make people more annoyed with him in his own base. You are underestimating the evangelical base? No, the evangelical base is gone. They're fucking insane. I'm not talking about the evangelical base. Trump's entire base of support is not just the rabid Christian evangelical Zionists. He needs support from a broader base if it chips away throughout time. And what remains is just like the rabid evangelical Zionists that support him, then he can't actually continue doing the stuff that he's doing. It's ridiculous.
The Middle East that will bring peace to the Middle East after all of these years of millions and millions, tens of millions of people being killed. There's a chance to bring peace to the Middle East.
What guarantees are you giving your Arab partners that Israel will not resume its offensive after the hostages are released?
Well, the primary guarantee is once this deal happens, if it does happen, look, they're in negotiations right now, we are going to do everything possible. We have a lot of power, and we're going to do everything possible to make sure everybody adheres to the deal.
Students ignore Starmer's call to respect the 7th of October anniversary. Remember that one chatter who was like, wait, why don't you... I guess that was Marx Carney. He was asking about Marx Carney, but I love the British framing on this issue, okay? Where it's like, oh, dude, come on. At least like respect Yom Kippur, you know? Don't do an anti-Israel protest on Yom Kippur. Don't do an anti-Israel protest on October 7. It's like, what are you talking about? Has the genocide stopped? No? Then it's valid for people to continue protesting. Suck my dick. Yeah, today is Condom Hummus Day. Nope. Not even a fucking little bit. Because remember, okay, and obviously a lot of people are yelling at Zoran, understandably, for his way of framing this as well. Okay, everyone is going to give awful statements on this. I do not think a single person in American politics, no matter how supposedly base they are, is going to look at the situation and be like, October 7 marks 2 years of Israel's genocide. Okay, that's it. That's it. 2 years. Yeah, Zoran came out and made this statement. 2 years ago today, Hamas carried out a horrific war crime, killing more than 1,100 Israelis and kidnapping 250 more. I mourn these lives and pray for the safe return of every hostage still held and for every family whose lives were torn apart by these atrocities. In the aftermath of that day, like, you can say this on October 8th, 2023. You can say this maybe in the first, not even in the first year, marking the first year of the genocide. But like, you know, the time for October 7 recognitions has completely fucking, we've moved on. Okay? This is ridiculous. Especially because Israel does not give a fuck about the hostages. Israel has consistently shown that they do not give a fuck about the hostages. They've killed hostages. Sometimes they've directly shot hostages and murdered them. Other times they have blown up buildings where some of the hostages and prisoners of war were staying in. The families of the hostages have also stated over and over again that the Israeli government does not give a fuck about them and their family members. Dylan Saba says Hamas committed a singular crime. Mamdani does not distinguish between military and civilian targets or casualties, instead of labeling the entire operation and armed resistance as such as criminal, whereas Netanyahu launched a war. These kinds of mealy-mouthed proclamations pretend to be rooted in universalism. Peace must be pursued through diplomacy, not war crimes, but at essence affirm the permanent subjugation of the oppressed and the illegality of revolution. Okay? If he does not want to engage this hard truth, he should just be silent. The Palestinians are not political pawns for him to use or condemn based on the exigencies of electoral politics, solidarity, or nothing. Does this not concern you? It does. It concerns me twofold. One, because this is a guy who has literally been hounded by Canary Mission and all these other fucking places in perpetuity for his consistent advocacy for the Palestinian emancipation. They're not going to fucking turn around and all of a sudden be like, yeah, this Muslim guy who was an anti-Zionist for his entire activism is all of a sudden good now. You know what I mean? Yeah. Mahmoud Mamdani, Zoran's father, Palestinians have a right to resist. This is a colonial occupation, not a conflict. May 12th, 2021. It's true. They do have a right to resist. Like, on the one hand, I make no, I don't mix my words when talking about like the events that transpired on October 7, right? There is, you know, there were atrocities that took place on October 7. It's true. Having said that, you have to always match the events that took place on October 7 within the proper framework of existing under colonial subjugation. Okay? Yes, I don't mince words. Sorry, not mix words. ESL. I don't mince words. It's true. Right? So the crimes that took place on October 7 have to be seen within the proper context. Within the proper context of 75 years of settler colonial apartheid oppression, death and destruction. Numerous October 7s had taken place prior upon the Palestinian population. Numerous October 7s. And I think people that still carry water, or people that still heighten the death and destruction of October 7 and the atrocities of October 7 in these words are, in my opinion, carrying a little bit of water, whether inadvertently or deliberately, for the ongoing genocide. Okay? Because we have to understand the asymmetry that exists here between a Palestinian death, which is collateralized, which is seen as just like a number, a statistic, an unfortunate statistic, if at that, versus every Israeli death is a tragedy. Every single one. When Israelis die, that is a horrible tragedy that took place. But when Palestinians die, when Palestinians are killed, right? When an Israeli is killed, horrifying tragedy. It's the most significant thing that has ever taken place. Okay, we must mourn. We must change the way we talk about everything. And yet when Palestinians are killed, when they're slaughtered en masse, when they are being genocided, no such considerations exist. So Zoran said, 2 years ago today, Hamas carried out a horrific war crime, killing more than 1,100 Israelis and kidnapping 250 more. I mourn these lives, and I pray for the safe return of every hostage still held, and for every family whose lives were torn apart by these atrocities. In the aftermath of that day, Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israeli government launched a genocidal war, a death toll that now far exceeds 67,000, with the Israeli military bombing homes, hospitals, and schools into rubble. Every day in Gaza has become a place where grief itself has run out of language. I mourn these lives and pray for the families that have been shattered. Our government has been complicit through it all. I mean, he salvages it a little bit in the aftermath. This must end. The occupation of apartheid must end. Peace must be pursued through diplomacy, not war crimes. And our government must act to end those atrocities and hold those responsible to account. The last 2 years have demonstrated the very worst of humanity. We must answer it by modeling the very best, a relentless pursuit of our higher ideals and an unwavering commitment to universal human rights. The genocidal war thing, like people are hyper focusing on the rest of this stuff, but it's not bad. Okay. Once again, I don't think that this is because this message is not going to soothe those who are cackling like fucking hyenas about Zoran's anti-Semitism. I think the conversation starting off with this, how can you be annoyed about this statement? I'm telling you what the issue is. Okay, I don't think you guys are understanding my the criticisms that I have, because October 7 is being utilized as a justification for the genocide that has unfolded after. Okay, making October 7 the pivotal point, the inception for Israel's genocide, is a lie, and it's one that he knows is a lie. Do you understand? He knows that this didn't start on October 7. So explaining the atrocities on October 7 without making a mention of Israel's own involvement, without making any mention whatsoever, without talking about it within the proper context, makes it seem as though you're bringing it up as a way to, in some respects, still justify the atrocities that Israel has taken place, like giving it some kind of, giving Israel's actions, his genocidal actions and his genocidal ambitions, some kind of cause. Here's what Ruwa said. Statement on the 2-year anniversary of October 7 and ongoing genocide. For 2 years, we have witnessed atrocities beyond human comprehension. 2 years of horrific violence, mass displacement, and incalculable loss. I'm telling you right now, guys, Zoran doesn't believe that. I know for a fact that he doesn't believe that because, you know, it's just, if you have been an advocate for Palestinian emancipation for decades prior to this, it comes from a recognition of the humanity of Palestinians from the start, okay? If you recognize Palestinians as human beings with a just cause for emancipation, okay, then you already understand this dynamic. You understand why when people get pushed into a fucking corner and recognize that there is no other, there is no other way out of this, okay? My statement on the last 36 hours across Israel and Palestine, this is what he said on October 8th, okay, from Zoran Mamdani. On ongoing violence in Israel and Palestine, I mourn the hundreds of people killed across Israel and Palestine in the last 36 hours. Netanyahu's declaration of war, the Israeli government's decision to cut electricity to Gaza, and Knesset members calling for another Nakba will undoubtedly lead to more violence and suffering in the days and weeks to come. The path towards a just and lasting peace can only begin by ending the occupation and dismantling the apartheid. Look at that statement when he wasn't running for mayor. Cool, now he's running for mayor of New York City. Stop self-sabotaging with these unrealistic expectations. Brother, I'm not saying he should be saying praise the fucking heroes of the Al-Qassam brigades or some shit. What are you talking about? My demand and my hope is that politicians exhibit moral courage and say the truth instead of lying by omission. How do you not understand that? My demand isn't that Zoran... My demand isn't that fucking, Zoran goes above and beyond. I think the omission in his statement comes from the fact that there is an evening out, a mention of October 7, which then creates a justification structure for Israel's actions, making it seem as though that's when it started, okay, which is incorrect. There is no symmetry. And as long as you do not actually address that there is no symmetry here, as long as you don't actually address the fact that October 7 was a breaking point after the culmination of atrocities for 75 fucking years, then you are basically, once again, creating a permission structure for Israel's violence, even if it's subtle, and simultaneously lying by omission. Anyway, let's hear what Ruwa had to say to see what a better statement looks like. For 2 years, we have witnessed the atrocities beyond human comprehension. 2 years of horrific violence, mass displacement, and incalculable loss. 2 years of having to mourn the deaths of men, women, children, and entire families. 2 years of families desperate to be reunited with those taken hostage. We remain angry, heartbroken, and once again, call on our leaders to bring an end to the destruction that has killed at least 67,000 Palestinians and more than 1,100 Israelis. Sadly, our leaders continue to fail us. I mean, that's, whatever. While they trumpet proposals of alleged peace, little has changed. Every day this continues. Israel with our backing and tax dollars perpetuates more death, destruction, and horror in Gaza. Children are starving. Hostages remain in captivity. Every day that passes isn't just a policy failure. It furthers one of humanity's darkest periods in recent memory. Today, we reiterate our calls to stop sending bombs in violation of our laws. We reaffirm the need for leaders to reach a just solution and a lasting peace agreement for all those living in the region. We echo the demands for the release of Israeli and Palestinian hostages. May the children born today grow up without genocide, apartheid, and oppressive cycles that perpetuate more violence. May we all have the courage to end decades of violence and bloodshed that's claimed so many lives. Together, we can bring an end to this nightmare. So I think ultimately, if you put it within the confines of like if you look at this within the framework of like well-established and consequential atrocities that took place, it'll help you understand what the issue is, right? It would be akin to speaking out against the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising by saying the partisans, Jewish partisans, carried out a horrific war crime in the Warsaw Ghetto, killing Nazis and also civilians in the process and kidnapping others. I mourn the lives lost in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, and I pray for the safe return of the Nazi soldiers and also the civilians. Okay, if you were to say something along those lines, if you were to talk about the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising or any sort of militancy that came from Jewish partisans at the time, as October 7, as the Holocaust was taking place, I think most people would understand that is a false equivalency. The same goes for the Nat Turner rebellion. The post that you prefer is also a lie by omission, though, just in the opposite direction. I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all. Because I'm not saying don't mention October 7 or don't mention like war crimes that took place on October 7 at all. I'm saying that when you do mention that, you have to still talk about it within the framework of 75 years of apartheid, especially in the aftermath of 2 years of genocide that has taken place. To me, it comes across as utterly ridiculous. And I think a lot of people, I don't think you always have to talk about it within that framework. No, I think you do, especially because October 7 is very clearly being weaponized to continue the death and destruction campaign. That's my take. I think Mamdani's made it very clear with his rhetoric that he's pro-Palestine and anti-Zionist. Oh, I agree. I'm not saying that he is. I'm not saying that he is fallen by the wayside or he's like been compromised. It's like Zoran and CIA or any of those things. Okay, I'm actually looking at this exclusively within the framework of optics. Okay, I don't think his heart has changed. I don't think his mindset has changed at all. Okay. Bro, you've said October 7 was bad. Should we be dogpiling you too? I always talk about it within the framework of colonial occupation, though. Okay? Just simply leaving it as such is allowing people to take advantage of this this kind of rhetoric. And his own statement, when we're looking at this simply from an optics perspective, I also don't think this is going to work. Okay? This doesn't mean that all of a sudden you should go and vote for like Curtis Sliwa, obviously. That's not what I'm talking about at all. In terms of, within the confines of electoralism, Zoran is above and beyond. Make no mistake. But my job is to also look at statements such as this one and remind people that there is a specific reason for why he is saying this, right? And in the aftermath of thousands of October 7s that he also personally recognizes, Palestinians have faced, it's not even appropriate to say October 7s as though Israel is conducting, boots on the ground military warfare and doing October 7s. Like Israel has access to every single Palestinian. Israel has access to their phones. Israel knows where they live. And Israel has utilized that as a belligerent occupier. Israel has access to all of the aid that goes into the Strip and had access to all the aid that went into the Strip prior to October 7 as well. Israel's taken thousands of Palestinians hostage. There is no equivocation here. It's just not. It's not something that that you can approach as though it's like there's no symmetry whatsoever. And when you approach it like this, you're not even making anybody on the opposing side feel more comfortable, because all of the things that come after is what Zionists care about. This is already unacceptable. The very fact that your name is Zohran Kwame Mamdani and that you are a Muslim anti-Zionist is already unacceptable for them. So, you know, you have to ask, like, who is this for? And I guess maybe it's for the squishy liberals who obviously want the scary Muslim man to at least like say the right word, or people who you know, obviously see him as a shining bright light in a new way to do politics in this country. Will obviously overlook this statement. I just personally think that statements such as this one are not actually going to win him favors with a lot of people. Because the pro-genocide people are still going to call him a fucking terrorist. Today, they're going to call him a terrorist tomorrow, and they're going to try to continue to do everything they can to unseat him, to make sure that he doesn't win the election. My point is, after 2 years of genocide, and this is good faith critique for a person who I admire, okay? I don't care if the ultras or some in the pro-Palestinian crowd get mad at me for saying this. I have, I have no worries about openly stating that I admire what Zoran has done, and I think he is a positive force in American politics, and he's in a unique predicament. And I don't think that this, for the normies, is going to make people think, oh, Zoran is betraying the Palestinian cause. Like, I don't think normies are going to think that at all. I think for normies, this is a perfectly appropriate statement that still very much channels the truth and the most consequential aspects. Why would Palestinians be upset with that sentiment? Because not only Palestinians, but the pro-Palestinian side of the pro-Palestinian crowd understands that Palestinians are fucking human beings, and that human beings have a just and moral cause for emancipation after decades and decades of dehumanization and brutal apartheid. So when you create an equivocation between the actions and make it seem as though October 7 is the starting point for Israel's genocide, you end up doing the thing that, you know, kind of Bernie has been doing as well. It's an admission that Palestinian lives are just simply worth less. There is no justification for genocide. And I think that should be stated. If you're anti-genocide, like I am, you should recognize that. Saying that this did not start on October 7 is appropriate. Saying that there is no amount of atrocity that justifies the horrific nature of Israel's genocide appropriate is the truth. That's it. Yeah. This is nauseating. Mamdani is little more than a Muslim terrorist. It is a disgrace he was ever granted citizenship. It should be stripped and he should be deported to the Ugandan shithole he came from. This is the outcome of pandering and capitulating because it's never enough for them. So why not just stand on your beliefs instead of losing both sides? I don't think he's losing the pro-Palestinian side. By and large, the average American that finds himself to be openly anti-Zionist, including people in my community, are not going to fucking look at this and be like, I can't believe he did this. Fuck this guy. There are some who will say that, and it doesn't matter. I care more about the signaling. You are under no circumstances you are obligated to cave and capitulate to your opposition's framing. Look at this. Why can't we condemn the October 7 genocide? You think October 7 was a genocide? You think October 7 was a genocide? Was 9/11 a genocide? Chatter? Are you okay? Do you understand, chatters? Isn't it about intent? Okay. Yeah. Genocidal intent actually plays a major role. Okay. Yeah. What do you think the intent of October 7 was? To genocide all Israelis? Is that what you think October 7 was about? This is insane. I don't question his morals as much as I question his political acumen. Yeah, I don't think his morals are different here. I don't support targeting civilians in any case. If targeting civilians in every case is a genocide, literally every fucking war is a genocide. Okay, everything is a genocide. There is no difference between what a genocide is and what war is in general. Yeah. Tyler Robinson genocided, allegedly, Charlie Kirk. Do you think the Americans committed genocide on the Japanese during World War II? No, I don't, actually. I think they committed war crimes, but I don't think they committed genocide on the Japanese during World War II, so no. Also, that's state versus state violence. You're comparing state versus state violence to a captive population rebelling against a belligerent occupier. This is why it's important to explain the background, chatters. Thank God for this one chatter, as a matter of fact. This is why it's important. This is why words matter. This is why explaining things within the proper, appropriate context fucking matters. Because if you don't do that, then you have chatters like this. Then you have people who believe that October 7 was also a genocide, the double genocide theory of October 7 versus the 2 years after October 7. Like you cannot look at World War II, a war between two states in the Pacific theater, as October 7, where the Palestinian resistance groups conducting a military operation breaking through the Gaza boundary, okay, to try and kidnap Israelis, to draw back Israel to the negotiations table with very specific, laid out, clear-cut goals, moving in the direction of developing sovereignty for the Palestinians as America's firebombing of Tokyo. It's like saying that the ANC was committing a genocide, a white genocide against the white Afrikaners, or the FLM was committing genocide. It's like saying the IRA was committing genocide. There's actually a real debate among scholars on whether 10/7 constituted genocide, but I don't think there's a case for it. It's far easier to argue that the attack was a political maneuver by the resistance than an attempt at extermination. It would be similar to any other genocide, and to me is more similar to Native American raids on white towns during American settlement. Yes, that's precisely what it is. That is precisely what it is. It's ridiculous. Ultimately, if you considered Palestinians as fucking human beings that have been subject to countless atrocities over the course of 75 years at that point of Israeli domination, then you would never consider October 7 to be a genocide. It's ridiculous. Any leftist mad at this has to think seriously practically about what would be achieved by a mayoral candidate praising October 7th beyond the emotional benefit. I'm not expecting him to praise October 7, man. I think anytime you mention October 7, you have to mention what came after it, which he does, okay? And what came before it, which he doesn't do. That's it. In the simplest terms, that's my expectation. Because if you don't do that, then there is a false symmetry that you create. And that false symmetry is exactly what Israel and Israel defenders use to varying degrees. It's not the worst statement of all time, as some people are presenting it. Like, I think Graham Plattner's statement is worse. On October 7, Hamas launched a horrific terrorist attack against the people of Israel. 2 years later, I'm still calling for all the hostages to be released and for this war to finally end. It's time for peace. Like, that's ridiculous. That's fucking ridiculous. Like, what are we doing? What do you mean? Yeah, I can't believe October 7 happened. Well, I got into a coma on October 8th, 2023, and just woke up from that coma on October 7, 2025. So I'm just oblivious. Not only is this position wrong, but it also literally is unnecessary. A lot of people are already on fuck Israel o'clock. And I think these statements are unnecessary. Like, the way that they're presenting this is not even fucking necessary. You're not winning anybody over because they already know you're anti-genocide while you're simultaneously pissing off people. It makes you look insincere. Zoran's statement is far better than Graham Plattner's statement, okay? Which just begins and ends on October 7. Just ridiculous. Is he doing this because he's getting an AIPAC check? No, obviously not. He's doing this because these guys still don't understand how to communicate. They still don't understand how to communicate about this issue in a way that is, like, appropriate. Americans hate Israel right now in the genocide, but there's still even more anti-Hamas terrorism 10/7. This is pretty clear in polling. Americans are squishy. I understand that. which is why good leadership requires a demonstration of moral courage. Sometimes it takes moral courage to say the truth. It took moral courage for Zoran to say the truth on October 8th, 2023. It took moral courage for many pro-Palestinians to come out and basically state over and over again that October 7 was not, it didn't just like happen out of nowhere. And it certainly wasn't because of the deeply rooted anti-Semitic tendencies of Palestinian society. Like they're a bunch of fucking little Dylan Roofs or something with copies of fucking Mein Kampf. That is what's frustrating to me. Because if you don't say the truth, then you end up allowing other people to also make up their minds about this issue and continue to believe the wrong things. It is a misrepresentation. That's it. Do not misrepresent my position. My expectation is not for them to like praise October 7 or something. I never have. Okay? But no mention of what took place prior to October 7 that led to October 7 is omission. And especially at a time when people are already experiencing anti-Israel sentiment like never before. This is not a time to retreat at all. This is a time to actually stand on your principles and bravely say the truth. Even if you start a conversation about that, that's still objectively a good thing. Not only is it objectively a good thing, it's also one that I know will be beneficial for you. You can't support immigration without supporting Israel? What? Why? Why? Let me guess. Because Jews are the reason why there's immigration into America, a country that was incredibly resistant to Jewish immigration at the time as well. Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. You're so fucking stupid, dumbass. Yeah, it was Jewish mind control that made Americans, made America a nation comprised entirely of immigrants. Okay, that's what it was. Clean and simple. Yeah, it's clean and simple if you're a fucking idiot, dude. If you don't understand anything about how America formed as a country. Thank you for agreeing. Yes, I'm agreeing that you are a moron. Oh, that username is, oh, yeah, fucking perma, that guy. I think educated pro-Palestine people underestimate how many normies are not knowledgeable of the occupation apartheid that existed before October 7. These normies could even be anti-genocide, anti-Israel, and still not fully understand the extent of the previous Israeli occupation of Palestine. That's why recognizing the context both before and after October 7 is so important. Thank you. Exactly. You put it into words that are so easy to understand. Thank you, Social Cat 6. That's my point. Precisely. Well said. Well said. It's that simple, especially at a time when there's like unprecedented anger towards Israel for its transparent genocide that has taken place for the past 2 years. There is no reason to not talk about how Israel has utilized October 7 to further its genocidal ambition and how Israeli occupation has led to October 7 to begin with. Maybe I'm missing something, but I just don't see the equivocation in Zoran's statement. Zoran's statement is not as bad as the average person that's coming out today, okay? It's not. People are obviously going to be extra critical of him because he has spent many, many years being an avowed anti-Zionist, okay? That is the reason why a lot of people are extra critical. We are always more critical to our closest allies. That's how it usually goes. My only take on this one, my only take in this moment is like I said, mentions of October 7 without talking about like what led to October 7 is omitting key details. That's it. That's it. Do I believe that he's no longer an anti-Zionist? Fuck no, I don't think so at all. But especially given his background, I think like any sort of statement on this issue that does not talk about what came after and what came prior, which he did talk about what came after without like tying it back to October 7, ironically enough, but did not mention what came before, creates a false symmetry between the Palestinian initiatives for liberation and also Israel's genocidal apartheid regime and occupation prior to October 7 and certainly after October 7 as well. Okay, you are better than him on this. I got it. Wait, what? Dude said he wants to arrest Bibi. Eat me with your hyperbolic ass, dude. Lost that guy to Candace. Not that bad. Spending 90 minutes on why it's bad. Okay, you are better than him on this. Got it. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to flex how fucking moral I am. Why is it that there's no nuance ever fucking allowed in this conversation, especially about people that I openly state my admiration for? You've been in here for fucking 59 months. I'm not saying he's like CIA or he's just like controlled opposition or anything like that. I'm not saying those things. I think those things are stupid. Okay? This specific chatter has done this to you before, Tulamau. I know. What a lot of chatters also don't understand is that if it wasn't for bold people like Zoran, if Zoran had that same attitude that you are experiencing right now, he may not have even fucking won the election, won the primaries, okay? It was his position that was previously seen as radical that many people now take for fucking granted because he actually was uncompromising. Sometimes it's okay to say the truth, even when a lot of people are fucking yelling at you over it. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Okay? This is not to say like he's betrayed the cause or anything like that. I'm not saying those things. Calm the fuck down. When is it not okay to say the truth? I mean, I think it's always okay to say the truth. It's always appropriate to say the truth. Low bar, but I think Zoran's political instincts, especially on Israel-Palestine, are better than AOC? Yes. Well, Zoran has that background as opposed to AOC not having that background.